On a quiet evening, with the glow of her phone lighting her face, she pressed the button that would change everything. The words came out carefully at first, then with growing urgency. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't hysterical. She was calm, too calm for someone who was afraid. "If anything happens to me," she said into the camera, "look at him." Those few seconds, broadcast live to friends, family, and strangers scrolling through their feeds, would later be described as a warning, a prophecy, and a confession all at once. She had once believed love could survive anything. When she met him, he was charming, attentive, and persuasive in the way that makes you feel chosen. He knew how to speak softly, how to promise stability, how to paint a future that felt safe. Friends thought they were solid. Online, their photos showed smiles, vacations, and captions about loyalty and commitment. But behind closed doors, the atmosphere was different. Conversations became arguments. Arguments became control. Control slowly became fear. The first signs were subtle. He wanted to know where she was at all times. He checked her phone out of concern. He questioned her friendships, especially the ones that existed before him. When she pushed back, he accused her of hiding things. Over time, she learned that peace came from silence. It was easier not to argue, easier to comply, easier to keep things to herself. But silence has a way of suffocating the people who live inside it. She began confiding in a small circle. Messages sent late at night, voice notes whispered from the bathroom, hints dropped in conversations that ended with nervous laughter. "It's complicated," she would say. "He's not always like that." Like many victims of emotional and psychological abuse, she carried the weight quietly, convincing herself that things would get better if she just tried harder. What finally pushed her to speak publicly wasn't one single incident, but the realization that her fear was growing faster than her hope. She had started to feel unsafe in her own home. She documented bruises she couldn't fully explain. She saved messages that sounded like threats when read twice. She noticed how quickly his mood shifted when she talked about leaving or setting boundaries. That night, something felt different. Friends would later say she sounded resolved, as if she had already crossed an invisible line. She opened Facebook, framed the camera, and went live. At first, viewers thought it was just another late-night rant. But then they noticed her tone. She spoke carefully, choosing her words as though she knew they might be replayed. She didn't name every detail. She didn't describe everything he had done. Instead, she focused on one chilling statement. If she went missing, if something happened to her, there was one person people should look at. The comments began to roll in almost immediately. Some begged her to call the police. Others told her to get somewhere safe. A few dismissed it as relationship drama, urging her to log off and calm down. She thanked people for listening. She said she just wanted the truth to be out there. Then, after a few minutes, the live ended. That was the last time many people saw her alive. Hours passed. Messages went unanswered. Calls went straight to voicemail. By morning, concern turned into panic. Friends who had watched the live video shared it repeatedly, tagging authorities and pleading for someone to check on her. The video spread quickly, no longer just a personal broadcast, but a digital record of fear preserved in real time. When police arrived at her home, the scene confirmed what many already suspected. She was gone. Signs of a struggle told a story no one wanted to believe. The man she had warned about was nowhere to be found. The investigation moved quickly, fueled by public pressure and the haunting clarity of her final video. Detectives pieced together timelines, reviewed security footage, and analyzed phone records. Her Facebook Live became a central piece of evidence, not because it proved exactly how she died, but because it revealed what she knew before it happened. She had been afraid, she had felt trapped, and she had tried, in her own way, to leave a trail. As the search for him intensified, details from their relationship began to surface. Former friends described his jealousy and temper. Text messages revealed escalating arguments. Neighbors recalled loud fights and slammed doors. What once looked like a normal relationship now appeared, in hindsight, as a slow descent into danger. He was eventually found not far from where they lived and taken into custody. When confronted with the evidence, he denied everything at first. He claimed misunderstandings. He painted himself as the victim of exaggeration and social media drama. But the digital footprint told a different story. Her warnings, his messages, the timing. The lies began to unravel. In court, prosecutors played her Facebook Live video. The room fell silent as her voice filled the space, steady but heavy with fear. Jurors watched her look directly into the camera, as if she were speaking to them across time. It was no longer just a video. It was a testimony she never got the chance to give in person. The verdict brought a measure of justice, but not peace. For her family, the pain remained raw. They spoke openly about the warning signs they wished they had taken more seriously. They talked about how easy it is to overlook emotional abuse because it doesn't always leave visible scars. They emphasized that her decision to go live wasn't about attention, it was about survival. Her story sparked conversations far beyond the courtroom. Advocates for domestic violence awareness pointed to her case as an example of how victims often sense the danger before anyone else does. Social media users debated whether platforms do enough when people go live in distress. Others shared their own stories, recognizing pieces of themselves in her fear and courage. Today, her final Facebook Live still circulates online, often shared with a caption that echoes her words. "If I go missing, it's him." It stands as both a warning and a reminder, a digital monument to a woman who tried to protect herself with the only tool she felt she had left: the truth spoken publicly. Her voice was nearly silenced, but not completely. In the end, it became the key that unlocked the truth, held her killer accountable, and forced the world to listen.